Thank you so much. Welcome once again to the Institute of Directors Zimbabwe Women on Boards Leadership Conference. This is the inaugural conference. It's the first time that we are hosting such a conference. And this year we are partnered by our sister institutions, Institute of Directors South Africa, Institute of Directors Ghana, and Institute of Directors Zambia. We really appreciate the support that we are getting from these corporate governance bodies. Going straight into our business of the day, I will invite a representative from the Institute of Directors South Africa, Sarita Martin, to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself, and go straight into her presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and good morning to everyone. It's wonderful to see that we have both male and female participants in this conference, and congratulations on your inaugural conference to Catherine. My name is Sarita Martin. I am a practicing non-executive director. I serve on 3 listed entity boards. I serve on the audit committees, I chair the remuneration committees, I serve on the social ethics committees, and many of the other committees. I'm also a director of a non-profit organization called Action Aid South Africa that you might be familiar with, as well as my child's school governing body. I do a lot of work for the Institute of Directors in terms of board evaluations, governance assessments, and training of directors. So I've been asked to, and I do a whole lot of other things. I do mediation, coaching, facilitation, but my background is in legal. So I have a BProc LLB MBA, and I have various other qualifications as well. So what I've been asked to speak about is around women and the challenges that they face in getting board positions. And Catherine? Okay, so I'll carry on. So this is not a new problem that we see around the world or in South Africa, where the number of women on boards is very, very limited. We have more than 50% of women in our country, and yet we have about 20% of women on boards. Now, if we look at the statistics, South Africa is not doing too well and seems to be the only African country after some European countries that have that number of women on boards. But how they came to be on those boards is a question we need to ask and answer. And I run a program called So You Want to Be a Non-Executive Director. And the first question that I ask is, why do you want to do this? Is it because of the money? Is it because of the prestige? Is it because of the status? And I don't want to know why, the reason why you want to do it. I think you need to know that reason. For me, it is because I need to add value. And I have this experience and I can add value. As I said, I have a legal background, but I've been in risk, I've been in compliance, I've been in human resources, corporate affairs, communication, and a whole lot of other areas. And so for a legal person to be on audit committees is also very strange for some to handle. So why you want to do this is really important. I think also the reason is that there are only so many positions available. And I often ask my delegates, I said, if you look around the room, what makes you different? Why would somebody choose you over everybody else to be on their board? Okay, and that's not even about gender, because we do know that generally men will favor men, and that it is quite difficult for a woman to get onto a board. once you're on a board, it becomes easier because they see that you've earned your stripes. But you could take someone, a newly retired executive man, and nobody questions his abilities, nobody questions what value he can add, nobody questions anything about him. And yet for a woman, it's that much harder to prove yourself. Because it's a very patriarchal society in South Africa. And so they'd rather say, you look nice, I like your shoes. I've had those comments made to me, which is very strange. But that's the way they handle it. It's not about your brain, it's about how you look. But I am a woman, and so I will look like a woman. And I think the questions that are, and the topic for today is really relevant at the moment, because we do need diversity on boards. Women bring a level of collaboration, of cooperation, of consensus, and a different take on matters. Some women try to be men because they believe that is how they will be able to survive. And so they are very, very harsh. But actually, you need to play to your strengths, and your strengths as a woman are wonderful. And I always say to my delegates that just be you. And you can't be anybody else, and there's nobody else but you. Oprah says, fake it till you make it. I don't quite believe in that. But because we all come, your journey to becoming a non-executive director starts long before you take that first appointment. It starts at probably high school, and then university, and your first job, and your second job, etc. Because I'll give you an example. I was meeting the chair of a board at a hotel lobby. And he was late, so I phoned the agency, and a man walked past me, and he smiled, and I smiled back, and then he said, "You Sarita?" And I go, "Yes." And he said, "You went to university in Natal?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "With the Law Students Council?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I'll never forget your face." Now, this is more than 30 years ago. So I always say to my delegates, what are people going to remember about you? Okay, what makes you memorable? And so, again, if you are going to compete in this greater pool, you have to have something that catches the attention, that makes people curious about you. And that is what I would say to women, is that, what is your story? And when I run the program, I guess you could attend it because we run it virtually now. But I say to them, make yourself interesting. Sit with a blank piece of paper and write your story as to how you became the person you are today. All right? And the old boys club still exists, unfortunately. That's never going to change. They're never going to take you seriously. And it is changing in the sense that you have to make a change. So, for example, I come across as very smiley and, all right, and somebody would say, "Oh no, she couldn't possibly be a non-exec." And so when I ask a question at a board meeting or committee meeting, I have to have a poker face, and I have to ask it very seriously. And I had a chair call me. We were dealing with a very delicate issue on fraud. And I had a chair call me after the meeting and say to me, "Sarita, you were cross, Sarita, today." And I said, "No, I wasn't cross, Sarita. This was a very serious matter. And I couldn't just be smiling through the entire thing. And I had to do what was appropriate." Okay, but for him, it was like he hadn't seen that part of me. And I guess that's what makes people curious, is what's the different parts of you, all right? And I think if you equate your self-worth to position, to power, to recognition, then you're going to be disappointed a little bit, because it takes many tries to get a position. And it's not easy, especially for women. I mean, I'll talk about South Africa, but we've got tons of legislation. We've got a great governance code. We have a great constitution, etc. Even our JZ, our listings authority in the JC say you have to have a policy on diversification, on gender. We've got 30% club here, but it makes no difference, does it? Because we're seeing a very slow turn in the number of women that are appointed to boards. And yet you could take a man, doesn't even have to be interviewed, he'd just be appointed. I read a book a long time ago. It was called The Celestine Prophecy. I never understood it the first time I read it. I never read it again. And it said everybody you meet has a message for you. And if you miss that message, then you miss the opportunity. And the same thing I would apply for a board position. And I tell my delegates, I use this analogy and I say, there's a man and he's sitting in the middle of a dam fishing, right? And he looks up and he says, I want to win the lottery. And the voice comes down and says, well, buy a lottery ticket. So again, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't apply for every position that you could potentially, be a candidate for, nobody's going to come looking for you. You've got to go looking for the position. Okay. Catherine asked me to speak a little bit about my journey. I started being a non-executive director about 10 years ago, and I've really enjoyed it. But there are certain industries that I will not touch. I won't, certain organizations that will not appeal to me because of the association risk. So I look at who's on the board and who else is on the board. And is there a reputational risk for me? And also, I want to be on boards where I can add value. I don't want to be a statistic. I want to be on a board where I can actually speak my mind or give input, because that's my expertise, corporate governance. So again, there are many organizations that might be, I sit on, as I said, listed entities, but it's because I can add value. Okay, Catherine's going to give me a time's up when when I need to keep quiet. Okay, and I never. It's so strange. I never practiced or anticipated being a non-executive director. All right, and this came to me. And then I had an 18-year-old who was doing the Being a Director program with me. So the Institute of Directors South Africa has two designations that we confer. One is a certified director and one is a chartered director designation. You have to go through different, but that's about professionalizing directorships. And this young man, he wouldn't have qualified for certified director. He was only 18 years old. But his dad was a director on a number of companies. And he attended my program, parts 1 to 4, where I go through, what you need to know in terms of the corporate governance code. And I was so impressed with him because he, I asked him to do presentations, etc. And he could hold his own with a 65-year-old, who'd been in corporate for so many years, respectful. And I thought to myself, wow, imagine if my son, who's 10 years old, was given that opportunity, that he groomed himself from the time he was 18 years old to take on this non-executive position. Instead of being like his mom, who's nearly 50, and I think that's what the legacy we can leave. My child sometimes with me if I'm training elsewhere, and he's 10 years old, and he's having a conversation with individuals on corporate governance. And are you doing the Being a Director series? And are you a director? You know, so he's already understanding corporate governance at 10 years old. And many of us never had that opportunity. And also because of the education system, and you know what the education system is like in South Africa. So I think it's really important that we prepare at a younger age for this, if this is something that you want to do. And I think at the end of the day, the question you need to ask yourself is, what do you, or who do you want to be? Why do you want to do this? And also, you know, there's a fear of the unknown, and there's enough liability. We've had so many corporate governance failures in South Africa. I'm sure you've read about them in the media. All right. So there's a reputational risk. And because I'm married in a community of property, when I started taking on directorships, my husband said to me, you understand you are putting our entire estate at risk. And that was a very sobering thought. So I worked hard for it. But at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to do. And I have a portfolio life where I can be a non-executive, I can do this, I can do that, and well, various things, and they bring me joy. And there's a Japanese concept called ikigai, and basically what it says is that you find your purpose in life. I see there's something coming through on the chat. Okay, nothing for me, but you are very welcome to put the questions on the chat. Or maybe I should just stop talking now, Catherine, and take some questions.
Thank you, Sarita. I have a few questions that have come through. You mentioned that in your presentation, you mentioned that women will favor women and men will favor men. But there has been talk, I'm sure you've heard of these talks, that when a woman gets up there, they don't want anyone else to get to where they are. What's your take on that?
I think it's very true. You know, there's an analogy. It says, if one candle lights another candle, you don't lose the flame of the first candle. And my experience has been that, and it's strange, that my mentors have all been men. And the women are, it's almost like a competition, or they just don't want to help other women get through. Now, I'm not like that. Me, I will help you. I want to see more people come through. And you know, you lose nothing. We need more women on boards. That is absolutely true. But what we do find is the same women rotating on all the boards. I don't know whether they think that's because they want the income or the fees for it, or because they just want to keep it at a very small pool. But very few women will do that for you.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. Maybe a follow through on that would be, in Zimbabwe, we have had issues of women who are sitting on board roles being recycled. You almost know that if there is a new board that has been set up at organization A, Sarita will be there. Is it the same scenario in South Africa? How is it in South Africa?
Yeah, it's quite similar. And that's why through the Institute of Directors, we've got a portal that we're in, because what happens is if you ask a search agency or executive search agency to find you individuals, they're going to give you the same names, all right? Because those are known to them. And when I do this program, so you want to be a non-executive, and I went out and asked them, they said, Sarita, you know as well as we do. We call you, you don't call us, okay? But with our portal, and you can go and hit it on our website, companies put through the spec of what they're looking for. And I had the opportunity, and well, one of the opportunities to actually be, I was appointed because I'm not an employee of the IoD, and to go through, they were looking for 3 members of an audit committee and 3 members of an investment committee. There were 160 applications for audit committee and just about as many applications for investment committee. And so if you tell me that we don't have black female actuaries or black female IT consultants, then I would say you're lying, because I've seen their CV, all right? But nobody goes and looks for them, and nobody gives them the opportunity. So that's why I love this portal that we have at the IoD, because it's transparent. I'll give you a personal example. Myself, I was contacted by an agency, and they said that this organization, large listed entity, was looking for a legal person with some risk background. I said, yeah, sure, you can send my CV through. It was something that would appeal to me. And they came back about 3 weeks later and they said, oh, they think you're too young. I said, I'm not that young, but it's fine. And about 18 months later, I was doing their board evaluation. And the newest director was appointed. And I said, so how did you find the nominations process and appointment process? And so I said, oh no, I just knew one of the directors, and he asked me to send my CV, and I sent my CV, and that's how I got appointed. So I would go rather with, I see you laughing, but I would go rather with my IoDZ portal where I have a better chance than if I go through an agency.
Yeah, maybe it all zeroes down on what you said earlier. We need to present, if you're a woman and you are trying to get on a board, you need to make yourself available and present yourself as a person who wants to be on a board. Maybe last question for you for now would be, maybe second last, would be, how is South Africa doing on board diversity in terms of gender diversity?
Gender diversity, we are about 20% on listed entities. It's difficult to get a view on unlisted and smaller organizations. Non-profits, mainly women, I would say. But for listed entities, we're just over 20% on boards. And if we look at it, that's why I say we've got more than 50% of women in South Africa. And yet we only have 20% on boards. And again, it's probably the same people that you're rotating anyway. And then if we look at it, if we look at our membership from the Institute of Directors in South Africa, we have about 35% women, but we're not seeing, well, now I'm seeing a lot of them come through in terms of our certification programs. And the certified director in particular, because that gives them the credibility to say, I'm a certified director, I understand corporate governance, so this is my designation. So yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Before we let you go, there's one question that has been coming up when we were registering to say, how are you balancing board roles, your everyday professional life, and your home life? Maybe if you give us a snapshot of that before we let you go.
You wouldn't believe it, Catherine. Firstly, I have a 10-year-old son via door. I have a husband via door sometimes. But so being a mother for me was very, very important, and I had my child late in life, and he is my priority. But then I'm able to take on, and I'm a kind of person that if I have one thing to do, I never do it. So I do 200 things at the same time, whether it's facilitation, mediation, coaching, board evaluations, board training, and I love it. I thrive on that. I mean, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and work. And then, get my son up at 6 o'clock, get him ready for school, take him to school, and then my day starts. And then I try to, my day, if he's playing a hockey game or a soccer game or a cricket game or swim, I block that out. Everybody knows Sarita's not going to be available because she's going to be there. So I think I'm very privileged to be able to do that and to have had an exceptionally good career that left me financially stable, because that's another thing. I've had very, it's amazing. I've had men and women that look at my, my biography and said, I want to be just like you. And I said, look, it took a long time to be just like me. But, you have to be financially stable, because non-executive fees, and I do say this to my delegates, I said, if you want to earn a really big salary, then I don't think a non-executive position is going to give you that. It might give you status, but it's not going to give you money. So that's the one thing. There's something in the chat that's come through. Can I take it, Captain? What would be the reason why the percentage of women on boards is so low in South Africa? It's because we live in a patriarchal society. That's all I can say. And what I find is that, and because I've done so many board evaluations, both in public sector and private sector, is that our boards have got into very bad habits. And so they can't unlearn those habits. And until you get new blood that challenges them on it, they're never going to change by themselves. And so that's just the reason, is that boards feel that men are meant to be, it used to be, no offense to men, honestly, all of you, David, etc., no offense to you, but it used to be that this, you went through, you retired, you became a non-executive director. Now you're finding 40-year-olds, sometimes I'm finding that want to be non-executive directors, okay? And the world is changing. The millennials are taking over. And if I could just quickly share an example. I was talking to a CEO of a short-term insurance company, and she was saying they invited a group of millennials to their strat session. And the do you have Uber? Do you hail a cab? Okay, so we have this Uber thing in South Africa where you hail a cab and it takes you somewhere. These millennials say, why do I have to have a long-term relationship with you? Why do I have to pay you a monthly premium to insure my car or my house? Why don't you Uberize it? You put it on an app on the phone, and I put in all the details. You give me what the rate is. I say, this is the rate. Okay, I accept it. When I get to point B, I have no relationship with you. Okay, so newer blood, newer thinking changes the world. And I think that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to see millennials come through and change this world. See, there's another question, if I may, Catherine.
That's all.
Driving board induction course at tertiary levels. Yes, we do board induction levels at tertiary levels. But Millicent, sure, I know you. But I don't think any of the universities would offer it. It would come through the Institute of Directors to almost prepare a board induction program. And board induction program, remember, is not just someone giving you their prospectus or their founding documents and this is our charters, etc. Basically, you've got to go do a walkabout in the organization. You've got to understand the culture of the organization and the industry, etc. And I always use this example. I said, if you're in the aviation industry and you say that an apron is something you wear in a kitchen and a hanger is something you hang your clothes on, then you actually don't understand the lingo of that industry, because an apron is where the planes land and the hanger is where they park. Okay, so you have to understand all of that, and that comes through induction. So induction is not just paper; it is walking around and getting to know. So the only way to read and it's difficult sometimes because men can be very, very harsh, and they can be, I would say, quite nasty, and you have to have very thick skin in order to still smile through it and then go home and cry. So you don't cry in the boardroom, even though somebody said something really bad and you think, am I that bad? or was I that wrong? And then you sort of phone, I mean, I know as women, we've like phone a friend. It's like, really, was I that bad in meeting? And you went. It's just somebody being nasty and wanting to break your spirit. And don't let anybody break your spirit. And I'll end with something just now. And yeah, if we don't take deliberate steps, we don't get there. But as I said, I use South Africa as an example where we have it in the Constitution, we have it in the Employment Equity Act, we have it in King 4, we have it in our JSE policy on diversity, and still we're not seeing the change that we want to see. And now, because somebody's done a research to say the number of women on boards, and South Africa is at like number 4. Oh no, we've arrived. That's fine. No, we haven't. I mean, 30% is not a large number, especially when you got more than 50% of women in the country, and educated women. But you don't only need educated women. I've done a lot of community where they have constituency-based boards, and if you're representing the community and stuff like that, you bring a different flavor, and it's wonderful to see that diversity on board. Okay, is there a standard format for reporting the results of a board evaluation? It differs. We have a particular format at the Institute of Directors, and it just differs. Everybody wants to get on this bandwagon of doing evaluations, but you really need, and it's a self-evaluation. So you as the facilitator, all you're doing is you're taking that information and you putting it in, and you're highlighting the issues that need to be highlighted. So there's no standard format, unfortunately. You just have to write the report, and it does differ. Right. But thank you. And just to end, Catherine, I don't know how many of you know what this is. It's a white belt. I'm not strangling anybody. This is a white belt, okay? It's a karate white belt. And in karate, wearing a white belt means that you are a novice, okay? And every day I look at this and say, I'm a novice. I will never arrive, no matter how many years of experience I have, because every day is a school day. And all I want to say to you is that just you must have faith in yourself. You need to equip yourself with the right education and the right knowledge. And you, again, buy that lottery ticket, because if you don't, you're not going to win the lottery. Okay. But thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this conference. All the very best for the rest of the day. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Sarita, for such an insightful presentation. In line with our theme for the conference, which is Womandla, Raising Leaders in Adversity, what I've picked is take homes for you and the challenges that you're giving, a challenge that you're giving to the women today, also as we celebrate International Women's Month, is that you need to know where you want to get to and why. And you need to put yourself out there, right? The board roles will not look for you. The positions will not look for you. And you also need to grow a thick skin. You don't cry in the boardroom. You cry, you always know that you cry at home. It's just you and your pillow who know that you were crying. And then take every day as a schooling day. Have faith and equip yourself. Thank you so much, Sarita. I hope you'll be able to join us throughout the presentation. If you're not, we allow you to excuse us. That's okay. Going on to the next presenter, I would like to apologize. We were supposed to be joined by Maria Oyolanda from Mozambique. She's not able to join us due to unforeseen circumstances. So we go straight into the third presentation, which we are getting from the Institute of Directors, Ghana, represented by Reverend Angela Kanman. Reverend, can you kindly introduce yourself and take us through your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. My name is Angela Carmen Apia. I am a non-executive director for the Institute of Directors Ghana. and I sit on the council of the Institute in the capacity as Vice Chair. In professional life, I am an Assistant Registrar for the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rev. You can go straight into your presentation.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members of the Institute of Directors Zimbabwe, distinguished members, dear colleague directors, special invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you fraternal greetings from the 11-member council of the Institute of Directors Ghana, chaired by Mr. Roxon K. Dobega, and special greetings from the 3 women who sit proudly on this council. We at the Institute of Directors Ghana are very happy to partner Women on Board Zimbabwe on this special day of yours, where perspectives on leadership with particular reference to women empowerment and achievements are being shared. We have followed with keen interest the giant steps taken in the pursuit of this objective and are very confident that you are on the right path. Today marks a memorable day where the successes and accomplishments of women is celebrated all over the world. The International Women's Day is a day set aside to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. Since its inception in the early 1900s, we have read about, heard about, and even witnessed the many accomplishments of women across the globe and have directly and indirectly shared in their success stories. From the 5 continents of our world, individuals and groups of women are celebrated by their men counterparts, some being spouses, sons, nephews, and what have you. In Africa, we especially honor our heroines with the title Mother. So, for example, we have Mother Earth, Mother Africa, and Mother Nature. And this is in appreciation of the strong influence and sacrificial roles these mothers play. Many of such heroines have left and continue to leave indelible footprints on the soils of our minds and hearts. Indeed, there is such a plethora of accomplishments across diverse spheres of influence, from academia through to industry, that the proverbial glass ceiling cannot be said to have been broken, but completely shattered now in our 21st century. Madam Chair, critical roles women play in society cannot be overemphasized. Creation stories in both biblical and Islamic literature, the 2 major religions of our world, suggest an intentional, purposeful agenda for a unique product for problem solving. The female species was created as a leader in adversity for adversity. In a complex and challenging world such as ours, there can be no meaningful progress without women. It is therefore very critical to unearth the innate potential of the special product if meaningful developmental strides must be made in our communities. In typical male-dominated environments, the value of this unique product is unappreciated and thus unexplored. And so, women have played and continue to play many stereotypical roles defined by traditions and culture, thus limiting their strengths. Madam Chair, the proper female, that is, the one naturally endowed with female anatomical and physiological functions and capabilities, is the critical ingredient necessary for the balance we seek to achieve in the boardroom, where strategic envisioning is best. This product is originally designed to offer unique solutions for life and sustenance. Conflict resolution is thus her forte. In order to assure satisfactory performance, the product design has been embedded with a default program for reproduction and nurturing, not just as a natural incubator for human babies, but for a multiplicity of others, including the special abilities for business procreation with business acumen. Madam Chair, this product is fit for purpose. It is no wonder that corporate governance structures, systems, and processes of the 21st century AD subscribe to parity and inclusiveness as a means to ensuring ethical governance. It is in this regard that we are very excited to support your efforts at increasing the number of women in executive and board positions, also to develop women through training and other processes such as mentorship. We are in very unusual times, Madam Chair, where our worlds are being challenged with many paradoxes of life, including the complexities of health, coronavirus pandemic, human sex identity issues, LGBTQI, coupled with the many risks of the information communication technology age, with related challenges like artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. Our worlds are not only getting increasingly complex, but smaller and much more interconnected. Boardroom business is no longer a luxury, but one that comes with enormous responsibilities, requiring a wide set of skills for effective operations. Fiduciary duties of board members being under challenge, some degree of preparedness is required to navigate often perilous waters of the business world. The nuances of the business world must also be significantly appreciated to ensure business excellence. As we seek to penetrate the glass ceilings of our worlds and peradventure shatter them permanently, it is critical to appreciate first the nature of the glass we seek to penetrate, and to identify which tools will better serve our cause. In this regard, we need, as women, self-introspection, self-appraisal, and self-motivation as essential ingredients of self-awareness for effective performance. As we strive for board placements, we must be mindful to take stock of our strengths and weaknesses. What skill sets do we possess? What value do we seek to bring on board? Do we need to restock our toolkits? Which volume buttons do we need to turn on or off? And which spectacles do we need to put on at any given time? Targeted training as a quality improvement strategy is highly recommended. As we celebrate the achievements of women globally, we celebrate our own achievements and receive much needed inspiration to step up our games and to impact our worlds positively. On this note, Madam Chair, together with all the 314 women on the Register of Directors at the Institute of Directors Ghana, we say a big thank you to your good self and to all other male colleagues of ours on whose broad shoulders we stand tall to view and to conquer our worlds. We wish you joyful anniversary celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that presentation. We appreciate the support that you're giving us as Institute of Directors Zimbabwe and Women on Boards. Before we let you go, we'll ask you 2 routine questions that we had prepared for you. Are you able to tell us how Ghana is performing with regards gender diversity and diversity generally on boards?
Okay, thank you. So Ghana, similar to other African countries and developing countries, is challenged with female representation on boards. On the front of the Institute of Directors Ghana, what we are seeking to do is to advocate through the presidency of the Republic of Ghana for more inclusion and diversity using available research and statistics for board parity, which is significantly low, and especially on state-owned enterprises. For private enterprises, the story is the same. So what we are doing on the front of the Institute is to embark on awareness creation activities which seek to create the necessary platforms for women, not just to be able to sit on the boards, but to be ready with the requisite skills and tools to so sit on the board and to discharge their duties creditably. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Maybe my last question would be, you are Reverend, you are a professional, you are a non-executive director, you are a member of council. How are you managing that? What challenge could you give to other women that are here who are seeking to go that far?
All right, so starting with the Reverend status, how I manage that is to draw on grace. So I draw on grace as much as necessary, and it is sufficient and it is free. Talking about the fleshly bit of it, what I do is to always remember and taking some tidbits from where Sarita left off. Remembering that you have not arrived yet. We are novices. We are peers. There are learnings. And it is always said that the illiterate of the 21st century is not one who has not been to school, but one who has stopped learning, who does not want to learn. So how I will suggest that women on boards should engage for harmony and for effective deliberation is to appreciate first yourself, self-awareness, and an environmental awareness. Sarita mentioned that in the boardroom usually is a male's world. Do we have what it takes to wrap the egos of these males? Are we ready to play those complementary roles? And we shouldn't forget that it doesn't matter how tough a man is, the woman has those skills to break those toughness. So I will suggest to every woman to learn to be emotionally intelligent. Sarita mentioned that you need balance. Sarita also mentioned she can do 200 things at a time. Why is this so? God in his wisdom gave women every necessary tool to play this role. So in the beginning, he said, it is not good for the man to be alone. So let's not be too afraid to enter the wells of men, because we have the approval to give what is missing. Until we play those roles and buy those tickets, we will not be able to have the harmony that we need in the boardrooms. And there will always be that but. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That's a very refreshing insight. I like the way you have said it. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies, we have been challenged by Reverend that we're in the 21st century and the glass ceiling has been completely shattered. We cannot speak of the glass ceiling now. If you want then to attack the glass ceiling as well, then have the necessary tools. You need to understand what nature of glass ceiling are you working with and what tools are required. And then you do an introspection of yourself to say, where am I? What do I have? What do I need to get onto this? And the board roles are there. It looks like it's a male's world, but we have been equipped with these tools to tackle the challenge that is before us. Thank you so much, Rev, for that. We really appreciate your taking time to be with us and with such refreshing insights. Thank you so much. You can continue with us as questions come through. We'll probably ask you to come through with some answers if we have directed questions to you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we go on to our next presenter, who is representing the Institute of Directors Zambia, Victoria C. Silutongwe. I hope I got that right. Victoria, can you kindly introduce yourself in short and take us through your presentation for today? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I had a challenge with the power, so I'm now using the phone to come back online. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Victoria Silutongwe. I'm a managing partner for Envis Consulting Limited. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Directors of Zambia and the immediate past president. I have served on various private and public sector organizations. I'm currently a member of the Integrated Reporting Committee of Zambia. I'm the vice chair for the Institute of Directors of Zambia's Finance and Admin Committee, and also a member of the ACCA Africa Communities Advocacy Committee. I have served as chair of the Evaluation Committee at some point for the Lusaka Securities Exchange for the annual Corporate Governance Awards. And then I facilitated and attended numerous workshops and seminars and conferences. I'm currently being used by the Institute of Directors as a consultant in board evaluation and performance reviews. So I was excited when I heard Sarita saying that she's passionate about that. I'm also passionate about that. So I will link up with Sarita to see how we can move this forward regarding board evaluations. Thank you. I want to thank the Institute of Directors of Zimbabwe for this opportunity to share my thoughts on the theme Womandla, raising leaders in adversity. It's a privilege for me to be part of this conference and try and promote leadership in women, especially. My thoughts are to question, what is adversity? I'm sure most of us know what adversity is. It's a state of hardship, a difficulty, misfortunes that we deal with in life. And these adversities can either make or break us. And every adversity comes with varying degrees and in different contexts. But they're all the same, they're adversities. And then the question is, raising leaders in adversity. Is there real training for adversity on the leadership ladder? I don't think so. I think that is basically an accept of experience. And everyone, I believe, can be a leader, yet only a select few can become great leaders. As leaders, we encounter various situations, emotions. There are good times, there are bad times, there are stressful times, there are terrible times. And great leaders are able to lead a team to success regardless of the situation that they're facing. In the words of John Maxwell, a leader is one who knows the way and goes the way and also shows the way. That's according to John Maxwell, which I think is a very good analogy. I'm going to speak to what O.S. Hillman calls the Joseph calling. Joseph was, I'm sure most of us have heard the story of Joseph in the Bible, coming from the book of Genesis, chapter 37. When God calls a leader, that leader usually goes through adversity. And why is this? This is because adversity builds character and produces wisdom. And God uses the adversity for the good of our lives and the life of other people. Joseph's story, in a nutshell, is he was an innocent man who suffered misfortune, mistreatment from his brothers, betrayal, and false imprisonment. It was his brothers, his boss's wife, and he ended up in prison. Yet it was those experiences that Joseph went through of adversity that prepared him to become one of the greatest leaders in the ancient world. He became the second most powerful leader in Egypt. So our losses, our setbacks, our trials are allowed by God to prepare us for a larger role in leadership in a way that God never could have if we had not passed through the pit of adversity. That is Joseph's story, and it builds strength. You know, a butterfly, when it's in the cocoon, it struggles for it to get out. And sometimes we tend to, when we're watching it, we tend to try and rip the cocoon off so that we can free it. But once we do that, it means it has not fully formed and it will end up dying. So it needs to go through the adversity. So right now, a lot of us are going through adversity, but we must realize that God is working in us to prepare us for an amazing future. That's what I believe. The COVID pandemic, which is what we are all facing now, and all its ramifications such as job and financial losses, the setbacks that we've encountered, sometimes leading to failures in marriage or crisis in a marriage, the death of loved ones. So many people have died since COVID came onto the scene. There's ill health, not necessarily out of the COVID situation, but just generally ill health. Some of us suffer from hypertension and so on, diabetes and so on. So adversity, from my perspective, invites leaders to rise and lead. I always believe that, you know, if you go hungry for several days, you are bound to be innovative, because we all have to eat. So you start creating ways of putting food on the table. and moving on. So adversity somehow is a blessing in disguise because it opens our minds. We are not relaxed. We are not sitting there waiting for Father Christmas to give us all sorts of things. And then there's, I think there's also, just to say that there are various types of adversities. There's the physical ones, the mental ones, the emotional ones, the social adversity, spiritual, financial, and so on. But what and who are exceptional leaders coming out of particularly this pandemic that we are going through? Exceptional leaders, from my viewpoint, is that they are authentic, they are aware about who they are humble to a certain extent, as the saying goes in Matthew chapter 23, verse 11, that the greatest among you will be your servant. They balance realism and optimism. They are committed to making others better and invest in the team rather than me. They are unusual and surround themselves with people better than themselves so that they can be better, and they stand out and are different from other people. Leaders, there are various qualities of a leader which come to the fore in cases of adversity. They must be honest. They must be able to delegate and show confidence in other people's abilities. They must be good communicators. And in the words of Nelson Mandela, it is better to lead from behind when you celebrate victory, and you take the front line as a leader when there's danger. Then people will appreciate your leadership. That is very, very true. Confidence, commitment, positive attitude, creativity, should be able to inspire, should be able to have empathy, and so on. Accountability. A good leader takes responsibility for everyone's performance as well as their own. We must be enthusiastic. We must have focus and drive, and be responsible for any failures or successes that come through to us. So how a leader responds to adversity reveals how effective that leader is, and the reactions to setbacks or crises not only test leadership character, but it also defines it. Some difficulties, as I said before, are devastating, like the death of a loved one, and they are compounded by how a leader responds. A leader who doesn't effectively deal with the trial will succumb to it. The rest of the organization obviously is not far behind. I want to end my sharing with what I call the after effect, the acronym AFTER, but the spelling is a little bit stretched in that it's the letters A, F, F, T, E, T, E, and another E and an R. What is called the after effect from my perspective. When you are a leader, especially in spaces when there's adversity, you must be able to be accountable. That's the A in the after. Accountability and answerable to stakeholders, decisions made, and submitting to be able to submit to rigorous scrutiny. The F is fairness, equal, just, and unbiased consideration of all key stakeholders. The other F is faith in God. It helps when one has hope, compassion, and love for themselves as well as others to be able to deal with the daily lives that we face. The T in the after stands for transparency, being able to be open as a leader to key stakeholders as to why every material decision has been made. These are the after effects, the words in there also speak to the pillars of corporate governance. Transparency, accountability are all pillars of corporate governance. There's also the E, efficiency and effectiveness, doing things right and doing the right things. You can do things right if you are a thief and you decide, okay, we are going to steal and everything goes right according to your plans, but you have not done the right things, okay? The E in the other E in the after is ethics and integrity, upholding the truth as a leader through ethical leadership. That is very, very important. What I believe is that if I, on a personal level, have no ethics and integrity to speak about, then I can't take that to the business that I'm running. It has to start with me before I can take it any further. And then there are the last R in the after effect as a leader is responsibility for all the actions that I as a leader conduct and to carry out duties with honesty. I must be able to carry out my duties with honesty, probity, and integrity. So when you get into the leadership position, you must be able to ask after, am I accountable? Am I fair? Do I have faith in God to do what I need to do? Am I transparent in the way I carry out my work? Am I effective? Am I efficient? Do I believe in ethical leadership, leading the team that is being entrusted to me? And am I responsible for the actions that I undertake or conduct as I carry out my duties? So, Madam Chair, that is my submission. I'm open to questions. Thank you very much for this opportunity once again.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for submission. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we are leaders and we are aspiring leaders. We've been challenged by Victoria to seek after, look into ourselves, to say, do we have accountability? What are we doing about fairness, faith, transparency, efficiency and effectiveness, ethics and responsibility? Thank you so much, Victoria, for that. Maybe a question for you would be, you mentioned when you were introduced, you mentioned a number of boards that you've served, and maybe it shows that you have had some experience in these boards. What would be your advice to aspiring leaders or to some of us who are aspiring to also sit on boards on managing emotions in the boardroom? We know that sometimes the seat gets very hot. How have you managed, or how have you seen managing emotions working in your experience?
Thank you very much, Catherine. I want to answer that question with a personal experience, and I hope when I refer to him, he will not mind. When I was an executive at the Institute of Directors at the beginning, the staffing was very thin, and we had to do 5,000 things all in one. And the executive director then, Ambassador Kapumpa now, approached me and asked me why we were not doing things that he had directed us to do. And I sort of flew off the handle and said, we are not superwomen. We cannot do what you want us to do. We are only human. We can only do so much. But on reflection, after years and going through life, I realized that exploding or not managing emotions doesn't help, especially as a woman, because once you are a woman, you are seen as an emotional person, you are labeled as such, and people don't take you seriously because they say, if you want any reaction from her, just say this and she will erupt. So it's really, really very important for me to manage emotions and maybe like count up to 10 and say, okay, Lord, give me the strength to answer properly and not flare up. So managing his emotions is very important, especially in a boardroom scenario where there's board dynamics and people tend to have different opinions from yourself. So they tend to rub you the wrong way. And when you strongly feel you have strong feelings about a position that the board needs to take, you need to really be rational in your answer, in your way that you deal with that particular issue. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Victoria. I have two questions that we've been following through on all presenters. Maybe I would extend those to you as well. My first question would be, from your analysis, how is Zambia performing in terms of gender diversity and diversity generally on boards in private entities and public entities?
Okay, thank you so much. I think what Sarita said earlier really basically applies to Zambia as well. If you take an example of the listed companies, there are very, very few. I think in terms of chairmanship or chairwomanship, whatever you want to say, there are like 3 as far as, and there are 22 listed companies on the stock exchange, on the securities exchange. So we are really very low in numbers. Even in terms of CEOs, there are very, very few, and very few stand out. I can count them on one hand who stand out. So we are still very, very low in terms of board diversity. And this is something that the Institute of Directors of Zambia is trying to encourage, that more women go on the board. I know the tendency is that we are scared that what will they say if I offer myself, you know? But we need to step out, and especially the young ones who are coming up like yourself and other people, other ladies, other women who are in the C-suite should come and take up those positions so that we have more say. Regarding that, I just want to say, all of us have heard about the Lehman Brothers, the fall of the Lehman Brothers company, and what Lagarde said after the 2008 collapse of the Lehman Brothers company. She said if it had been the Lehman sisters, that situation could have been different. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it goes back to what Rev had said, that we are naturally designed with the right tools. I'm sure that would be the reason for assuming that. Maybe my last question to you would be, how have you managed to balance? I know I've been asking this before. How have you been managing to balance your professional life, your home life, and everything else?
Okay. Initially, I'm at a stage in life where I'm not in full-time employment. I'm mostly doing non-executive work and board evaluations, like I mentioned earlier. So I have more free time right now. But through my career, I was able, my husband who's been very understanding, and sometimes he cooks. So if I'm late coming home, I find he's made an egg sandwich. His favorite food is egg and bread. So he would have made something so that by the time I organize myself in the kitchen, at least he's not at a point where he's about to collapse from hunger. So it's been a good journey for me. And right now I'm in the home with my husband, my daughter, and her daughter. So in the morning when my granddaughter goes to school and my daughter goes to work, it's the two of us. So he's got his office, I've got my office, and it's quiet until my granddaughter comes back home. So somehow we've been able to balance that. But I know it's very challenging for young mothers who are still in full-time employment. I can give an example of my daughter-in-law who's an auditor, and you know how audit work is. So she sometimes has headaches non-stop for 1 week, but somehow she's able to manage.
All right. Thank you for that. There is a question on the. Let me try to get to the chat platform. There is a question from Chisha, where it says, Director Salutongwe, what's your advice to young women on boards in Zambia that would like to have impact in their work and a successful corporate governance experience?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the first point of call is to be able to understand corporate governance itself, to be able to be trained in corporate governance, what corporate governance is, what the role of the board is, what strategic leadership is, how you as a board member or as a financial stewardship, and then how do you plan going forward in terms of corporate governance. So the first port of call would be training in corporate governance so that you are equipped, and then make yourself available. Don't shy away. Don't, when somebody points at you and says, please bring your CV, we would like to consider you for position of the board, and you shy away and say, oh, me, I can't do it. I can't sit on a board where there's 7 other men, and they won't take me serious. It's to offer yourself, be bold, be strong, and have faith in God, and you will get there.
Thank you so much for that, Victoria. We have another comment from Miriam. She says, thank you, Angela and Victoria, for sharing information that one would not ordinarily get in a textbook. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate Victoria's presentation. It is coming up again that as women, if we want to take up leadership positions, we have obligations that we need to meet. We need to capacitate ourselves, look at ourselves, what do we need in terms of capacitation, go through some training and development programs, and then present yourself, make yourself available, and ultimately have faith. Thank you so much, Victoria, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, are there any other questions that we have? Can we post them on the chat platform as we wind up our conference for today? Are there any other questions, burning questions that we might want to present to Victoria and other panelists? Maybe as we are winding up, would want to explain or also put to light that as Institute of Directors Zimbabwe, the initiative of Women on Board Zimbabwe also seeks to capacitate women who are seeking to be to match with board roles. We capacitate them, we develop them, we mold them, we also coach them so that they are able to sit on a board and be effective and be an effective member of that particular board. So we are also inviting members, that people who are not already members of the Institute, to join us and also join in the activities of Women on Boards. Ultimately, our goal is to match our women with board roles and also achieve the 50% plus that has been provided by the Constitution of Zimbabwe of women representation in leadership positions and boards. It seems we are not getting any other question. I cannot see any question on our chat platform. As we are winding up, I would like to invite one of our board members, one of our councillors for the Institute of Directors, Miss Millicent Banda, to give us her closing remarks.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you, everybody, for joining. On behalf of the Institute of Directors in Zimbabwe, I'd just like to extend our thanks and our gratitude for taking time out to be with us today. I think for me, in closing, diversity on boards is critical to sustaining performance. That goes without saying. But also, I think in diversity comes adversity, simply because as humans, first and foremost, we are different. As men and women, we are different. So diversity is, will follow in such a situation. Some of the practical things that I took away from the presentations today is make yourself available. Have faith. I think the sort of, the undertone of, having faith in yourself and your ability, kept coming up for me. And on a lighter note, it's okay to cry, but not to cry in the boardroom, cry at home. Another thing that sort of resonated with me was we haven't arrived, so keep learning. So yes, we've got our degrees, we've, some of us have, done the courses, etc. But we need to keep learning. Even in the boardroom, it's an opportunity for us to learn. Be emotionally intelligent. That was also a theme that sort of kept coming up. Adversity builds character and wisdom. And then you need to balance 200 things at a time. That for me put a smile on my face. And I think as women, as leaders, we do really juggle so much at any given time. And I suppose 3 sort of fundamentals for me to close up with is inspire, empathize, and take responsibility. And once again, on behalf of IoDZ Zimbabwe, thank you for joining us. Over to you, Edie.
Thank you so much, Councillor Millicent, and thank you, everyone. I have nothing more to add. I'm wishing you a pleasant day and a pleasant weekend as well. Until next time, thank you.